Hey there, hi there, ho there. It's me, Bear, Gen X GM, hanging out with this guy and this guy. We had other people that were supposed to join us tonight, but they all decided to flake or had, lives. Fuck.
Seriously, who does that?
and like family. Like, what the fuck is family?
Weirdos.
Seriously. I got no use for that. Ain't got no time for that. But anyway, we're here, and tonight's discussion is going to be superhero RPGs. Hence, I'm wearing my heroic shirt just for this. I never wear this shirt anymore because I don't like the color on me.
Looks good on you.
No, it doesn't. Red looks terrible. I'm a fucking ginger. We look awful in red. It makes our skin pink. What the hell's wrong with you? Okay, get the wife in here because at least I'm sure she understands basic color structure and fashion. as we can tell, Brian.
I was just saying.
You know what I mean? I'm extra super fucking tired tonight, so if I'm bitchy.
How would that be different than
if you're
any other
watching
night?
and waiting for your chance to downvote the video, we'll just go ahead and get that out of the way right now, since you've been doing this systematically every live video I have. Yeah, we got a room for one or two more because, well, no one else joined us tonight. So if you guys want to be here, let me know. But we're talking about superhero RPGs, so don't go bringing in no goddamn D&D bullshit tonight because I ain't down for it. I am not down for your Dungeons and your Dragons. I want your doctors and your dooms. Bitchy bear can be a fun bear. Yeah, until the bitchy's pointing at you. That's not so fun anymore. All my friends have learned that. It's so funny when you pick on people, but when you pick on me, it sucks. Exactly. Now you know how the person you were just laughing at felt. Supposed to be gaming tonight, but kid is sick. Moral of the story, don't have kids. I agree. I can agree.
I am 22 years too late for that.
Fucking little disease factories. Oh my god. Why did we could we not figure out a way to just fucking subdivide like a cell, like I mean, we are a collection of cells. You think we would have figured out a way to just go, oh no, there's two me, like fuck. No. We had to make the most fun thing we can do have the worst possible fucking payoff. There we go. All right. So, other than my ranting about how the world sucks and I hate children, I don't hate kids. I just don't want any. There's a difference. Like, people think I hate children because I'm like, fuck, keep your stinky little kids away from me. But that's not because I hate them. It's just because I'm uncomfortable around small, breakable things. Like, what are you going to do? All right. So Malachi's here, Full Metal Dragon's here, Christopher Allman's here, Christopher from the Hilt is here, Jason Harris is here, Coco's here. I'm gonna have to get my thing.
A whole stream going on before we even went live.
Mike Percival's here. Looks like that's everybody. Did I get everybody? Oh, Cody, but Cody's here in the chat, so weirdo.
Oh, Cody's here. Good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, hey, good. Hey, Cody, how's it going there, Cody? Yeah. When you were born, your mother said, "What a treasure," and the doctor said, "Let's bury it."
That's fucked up.
You never heard that before?
No.
You never heard the other one. When you were born, your mother said, "What a picture," and your father said, "Yeah, let's hang it."
I've heard that one.
Yeah.
I have not heard that one.
I told my darkest joke I know possibly on Hungar's stream today. Shall I share it with you guys? It's super fucking dark.
Please do.
It's super fucking dark. You guys may have heard me say it before. I think I said it once before on one of these streams. How is dark humor like Make-A-Wish Foundation kids?
Oh, jeez.
Never gets old. Thank you. Good night. I look forward to my channel being canceled.
We've all lost our subscribers.
There we go. and picked up some really creepy new ones.
Right?
All right, Chris, what are you posting now, Chris? Like, are you like the channel fairy? Is that what you're here? You're just going, hey, everybody have a YouTube channel. Like, what is this obsession? I'm taking away your wrench. I swear to God. What channel is this you just posted? Chris has it. That's not Chris. Chris doesn't have a channel.
Yeah, he does.
Chris Almond?
Oh, Chris Alma? I don't know. I don't know who that is.
That's the Chris Almond in the chat. He's like one of my childhood friends, man. I don't think that's the same Chris Almond. No, really? I didn't know Chris had a channel. Chris, why didn't you tell me you had a fucking channel, dude? All right, let's just get this going. I'm gonna get mad and murder someone, and then it's all gonna suck, and I'm gonna go to jail or some stupid bullshit. I don't know.
I was gonna say we are 6 minutes in, and clearly the topic is just taken right off.
Yeah, the topic is Bear's in a fucking mood today. All right, superhero games. Let's start with the basics. Everybody knows what my favorite is. Brian, what's yours?
So as is typical of my comments, the one that I actually have the most experience with, which is mostly just reading the book and making a few characters here and there, was Heroes Unlimited from Palladium. So
Cody, explain to me why he's wrong.
I couldn't tell you because I never played Heroes Unlimited.
There you go. Be careful, Bear, not to get Mike warded. What does that mean? Please explain what Mike warded means, and I'll explain to you why I don't give a fuck. That'll be a fun conversation. All right, no. So Heroes Unlimited, valid. It's a very popular one. I had all the Villains Unlimited stuff as well at one point in time. I really liked that fucking stuff. It was good. Good art, good NPCs that I would throw into my games. Cody, what's your favorite superhero game?
It will forever be the classic TSR Marvel Superheroes game, which I just picked this book out because I like the cover.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, that's not the game, man. That's the source book for the city.
Yeah, no, I got the books over there. I just like the cover of this one. And
have you asked me about Heroic? No.
My favorite at the moment is Prowlers and Paragons
Ultimate Edition.
Yep, and this is what I've been running lately, and yeah, I really enjoyed this. And if I had to pick a second favorite, just to cheat because it's nostalgic, and we played this a whole hell of a lot back in high school, is Champions. We played a lot of Champions back in the day, and it's still a personal favorite of mine.
Nice. Oh, by the way, the Drive-Thru RPG winner, the 2 gift cards were sent out today. So remember, if we do super chats, guys, if we get to $100, 2 Drive-Thru RPG cards will be given away for every $100 we raise. $25 gift cards for Drive-Thru RPG. So make those super chats happen, and I'll actually read anything you write within reason that is a super chat. If you write some stupid nonsense, I'm just going to go, and Steve says... blah, 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 blah. So just keep that in mind. All right. So no, there was not a City of Heroes. There was a preview for it from Eden Studios for City of Heroes RPG, but problem being they never finished the game. They never brought it out. Other problem is it wasn't a superhero game. It was a City of Heroes simulator. So it had all of the caveats and tropes of City of Heroes as opposed to being a generic superhero type situation, which is fine. But it wasn't popular. People didn't really care for it that much, sadly to say. Obviously, I love Marvel superheroes, and then Marvel Saga would be my number 2. And then if I really had to pick a number 3, boy, Supers, original Supers, not revised edition. Holy fuck! Look at this. Look who joined us. Wait, am I supposed to?
Hey, Jason.
Hello.
Jason? I gotta fix your stupid thing, you fucking hillbilly.
And hi, Jason. Nice to meet you.
I'm in a mood, guys. Sorry.
You're two of those people that it kind of feels like I know because I watch y'all talk so much, but I've never actually spoken to you.
There you go.
But I figured if I'm ever going to jump into one of these, superhero games, gaming is the one I need to jump into.
Yeah.
So, well, there you go. So, welcome aboard. So, for me, the first and most important thing about a superhero game is that it does not act like it's trying to be a comic book simulator. Because nothing drives me more insane than people talking about how comic books and the game needs to play like a comic book. No, a comic book needs to read like a comic book. A movie needs to play like a movie. A radio play needs to do like a radio play. A novel needs to read like a novel. And a role-playing game needs to be a fucking game. But I could be wrong. Therefore, I get arsed off when I open up a book and I hear terms like panel, page, as rounds and actions, and the game master is called the editor, and it's just like, oh, for me. What do you guys feel about that?
No, I feel exactly like you're saying. I mean, role-playing games are a different medium than comic books or movies or a book. It's never going to feel exactly. You can't play a role-playing game and make it feel like a book.
Yeah.
Even I guess you can, but that's going to be really boring, right? You can't play a role-playing game and make it feel like, I mean, it can feel like a movie or it can feel like a book or a comic book, but it's never going to be that experience. It's a totally different medium. So no, I agree with you, but at the same time, I do like to have some of the comic book feels. You can bring certain elements from certain comic books or a certain age of comic books to make it feel like a comic book, but it's never going to be a comic book, right? Because a comic book is scripted and edited, and it's it's a railroaded plot, and it's going to go a certain way.
Heroes can develop powers that they never had before. Suddenly, Martian Manhunter. Trust me, look into the list of powers. Martian Manhunter's had so many powers, the writers have forgotten some of them over the years.
Right, exactly. So, it's never going to play out just like a comic book. And if you try to do that, it's going to be a pretty boring experience for you and the players. So,
agree.
That's my 2 cents.
Okay, fair enough. Brian, Jason, either of you got a feeling on this one?
Well, I agree with you that it is a different medium, that you're going to get a different effect. I mean, typically your comic book, it's the one character. It's Superman, it's Batman, it's they're just doing their things. Yes, you have your team ups like the Avengers or X-Men, whatever, but typically in a comic book it's just focused on your protagonist. So obviously the games are going to have to be different because it's usually not a player and a game master. You're going for that team aspect. As far as when they call the GM the editor or things like that, it's really weird because I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to pull you in, make you feel like you're in that kind of setting. So it just kind of depends how they use it. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. I'm very mercurial on that one.
Okay, fair enough. Jason,
the whole calling turns, panels, or pages, or all that didn't bother me. Yeah, I could care less. I don't want a simulator, so I kind of agree with you there. But I don't mind when they pull or make mechanics that reference something or try to give you that slot vibe. A game doesn't need to be a comic, but if you make it feel a little bit like one every now and then, then that's kind of that's nice. That kind of works.
No, but that's fine. That's just genre at that point in time. It's when they try and make it play like a comic book that I just get arsed off with it. That's the way I feel about that. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? And there's so many, we are literally embarrassed for the amount of superhero games on the market right now. It's insane, the amount of superhero games. I used to have this fantasy that I would collect all the superhero games ever published, and then PDFs and Drive-Thru RPG happened, and I went, well, that's not fucking happening because I'm not made of money. It's just, I can't afford all those PODs. It's just not an option. Okay, so one of the things I often see people who criticize superhero games in places like, RPG.net and stuff like that is they always say this term that I fucking hate, but it's me, where they go, well, does it pass the Green Lantern test? Can I build Green Lantern in the game? Can I build Green Arrow in the game? They never say, can I build Superman? Or can I build Batman? It's always Green Arrow, Green Lantern. And here's why. Because Green Lantern has an omni power sitting right there on his finger. He can do anything with that, right? Hello, Catherine. Hi. And Green Arrow has a never-ending bag of Omni power on his back. And to be honest, there are certain games that can do it and certain games that can't without you having to have a shit ton of points or higher level or whatever it is the economy for building characters is to do that. One of the reasons I really love Marvel and why Heroic does the same thing. Yes, we're going to have a list of powers, but we also have the Heroic way of doing powers, which is tell me what it does and give it a rank.
Yeah.
And let's move on. You know what I mean? I have laser eyes. Great. What do? They shoot lasers. Cool. What rank? I'm remarkable. Great. You have remarkable laser eyes. Moving on. I don't need to go in and go, well, I have a ranged killing attack with an energy focus by the... I call those games Lego games, though the official term is builder. So for you guys, what does a superhero game need to do for you in character creation, specifically, for you to feel it is a good game?
Well, overall, I just want to bring whatever kind of hero I have in mind to life. So now I understand you got to understand too that it's still a role-playing game, and you have to put limits when you're making characters in a role-playing game. So you have to have that expectation going into a superhero game that it's like, whether it's a point-based game or it's Marvel superheroes isn't point-based, it's randomized, or you can pick things depending on how however your GM chooses you to do it and what supplements you're using and whatnot. But there's still limitations there. So it's like, okay, well, you're probably not going to be able to make Superman. Probably, depending on the point level, because we don't want everybody to be fucking Superman, because that just wouldn't be fun in a team setting in a role-playing game. Or it might be, I don't know, it just depends on the group. But overall, you tend to want to keep things balanced, and also so the GM can stay sane, when he's creating adventures for the enemies and villains for the players to fight. And if everybody's playing Superman, well, that just kind of sucks the fun out of the whole game, right?
Sure.
So as far as what I look for, I look for, can I build any kind of hero I want to do within certain limitations? And if I can, that's cool. The other thing I look for is it fun and fast?
Mm-hmm.
Can I make a character fun and fast?
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, I just said I like Champions, and Champions is not that game. But that's a totally different thing. But there is something to be said, like games like Champions are kind of fun in a way. I do like that builder aspect in a way. It's kind of fun just to tinker around. If you know what you're doing and you've played it enough, it is kind of fun to, like, in Champions, you could literally build anything, and it's kind of fun to find exactly what you need to do what you got to do. But it can also be kind of fucking exhausting too.
Mutants and Masterminds.
Yeah, Mutants and Masterminds the same way, and that's kind of like Prowlers and Paragons. Not to upsell Lynn any more than he already gets upselled, but I think he did a really good job, and it's very fast and easy to make a character, and you get the same kind of flavor like in Champions, where and Marvel Superheroes does that too remarkably well. It's very simple. You pick a power, and like you said, you pick a rank, and you're done. And Prowlers and Paragons kind of the same way. It's like, okay, there's the power I want, and it's very explicit what that power is. It's not like Champions where it can be very vague. It's like, okay, so how do I do the ring? It's like, okay, well, if you want to do Green Lantern's ring, you got to take Omni power, and then inside of Omni power, you got to have 100. You get 100 points, and you got to divide those 100 points, and it's not like that. So I don't want something that's going to cause me a headache nowadays. I just don't have the time to build characters for Champions anymore, or villains and stuff. I want to just play something fast, fun, and easy, and have a good time.
You just hit a point for me, which I'll get back to. Brian or Jason, who wants to go next about what a game has to be able to do for character creation that makes it a good game for you for a superhero game?
With me, as I have gotten older, I want one where I can crank out the characters faster. When I was younger, I loved how Champions builder the building worked, as long as I had the software to do the math. Because I like to get in there and mess around with every little thing. But I was also only in and running 1 or 2 games at the time.
Yeah.
Here soon I'll be in 7 different games. I ain't got time for that no more.
Fair.
So I'll go for Marvel or Icons, where push comes to shove, I can improvise a character in the middle of a game and it not be noticeable.
Exactly.
Now, I used to be able to do that in M&M in the 2nd edition because they had a book called Instant Superhero that was it was all sorts of templates for,
Yes,
almost every kind of character.
Remember that, yeah.
Probably my favorite superhero supplement of all time. Then they went to 3rd edition.
Oh yeah, no. The only M&M I liked was 1st edition, but that's me. Brian.
I think that what a game needs is it needs to at least give you the flavor of what you're trying to do with the character. I think a lot of people, get hung up on that. Oh, well, I have to be able to recreate Green Lantern or Green Arrow or Superman, whatever. But they neglect the fact that it's a game, not a book that you can do whatever you want. In a comic book, you could, you want to make Green Lantern, have 5,000 copies of himself, duplicated out of his ring. Go nuts. It's not as important as long as it drives the story. Whereas in a game, if somebody has that power, but then the other guy is like, oh, well, I'm a super smart guy. Okay, well, the power levels are completely different. So I think just something that... Go ahead.
No, finish.
I was just going to say, just so something that at least lets you get that flavor, even if not necessarily giving you that same power profile, I think is what's more important.
I would highly recommend you check out Supers, either the original or revised edition, because the beauty of that is you can literally use anything to do anything as long as you can justify it. So you've got your super genius with his super brain, and so the guy shoots you with his energy blast. Oh, I'm going to dodge it. How? I'm going to use my super brain. How are you going to use your super brain to dodge it? I, in the fraction of a second, calculate all the possible trajectories that thing could be coming at, and I move out of what I think the most possible one is. Boom, done. Let's go. Roll the dice.
Sure.
That I love. I love that because it's so, it forces you to be in the character and think about how the character can be. I see a lot of people talking about Savage Worlds in the chat, and Savage Worlds I don't like because it hyper qualifies everything to a certain extent, and it breaks down at high level play. Like you can't go much above Teen Titan level play in Savage Worlds before it just starts to not be good at it. It doesn't do high power very well, especially cosmic. Oh my god, you can't do space stuff, and that's going to be a thing. Weird Guy for $10, and then I'm going to talk about what I want from a game, says Tiny D6 Supers is a great game for quick and easy and effective. Might be a tad too light on rules, so Experienced GM is a must. Also, the add-on Fallen Justice adds gritty Batman type and gear. Well, thank you for the super chat, sir. We are now $90 away from another giveaway. And I hear a lot about the Tiny D6. I think I picked up one of them, Tiny Dungeons or something, and that wasn't for me, but I understand a lot of people love it. That's when you get into the level that's too simplistic for me. I need a little more crunch in that. Icons I couldn't stand for that same reason. Icons was too simplistic for me. I wanted a little more crunch. What I need from a game is, as a narrator, as a storyteller, as a game master, which is the more important part for me, is I need to be able to do what Jason was mentioning earlier, make up a villain on the fly.
Yeah.
And Marvel superheroes will always be the game for that. Because what do I need to know? Some stats. Remarkable, excellent, typical, good. And primary power, primary defense power, whatever, boom, 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 couple of talents. I can do that in seconds. And just jot it down on a piece of paper, and my villain's ready to go, and I can fill out the finer details at a later point in time, and it's completely playable, and the players will never, ever notice it. And that's the thing that matters to me the most. So, yeah. Now, Mutants and Masterminds does have one thing that I love, and it's what I personally prefer. When it comes to superhero role-playing games, there is nothing I love more than roster books. I absolutely adore collections of villains and heroes. And that's probably because of Villains and Vigilantes Most Wanted books back when I was a teenager. Those were the ones like, ooh. And then Champions and Classic Enemies. I love that one. GURPS Super Scum. I really love that one a lot. I think I still have that one up on my shelf somewhere. It's all falling apart. And Mutants and Masterminds had one that wasn't produced by Green Ronin called Crooks. And that book, anyone out there have a copy of Crooks for sale or trade, please get in touch with me. Thank you. It's a fantastic book. The characters in it are really interesting. It's got lots of cool shit in it. And it's sad because they've vanished. That whole license has just vanished. And I went on a quest to try and find out who had the rights to it about 5-7 years ago, and no one could tell me. It was one of those weird ass things. But Jason's about to tell me who's got the rights, so I'm going to have to slap him here in a second. But go ahead, Jason.
All right, so it was Super Unicorn.
Yeah, Super Unicorn.
It. I want to say most of those people also worked for Paizo, and it was about the time Pathfinder took off, which is why part of why they disappeared.
Yeah.
You could get it on drive-through for a while.
I want a hardcover, dude. I want the hardcover. You know, I want.
You might be able to use that to track somebody down if you haven't already looked.
I tend to hunt Noble Knight, and Noble Knight wants way too much money for shit like that when it shows up because it's, you know, Noble. Listen, I'll tell you right now, if anybody out there thinks Noble Knight is the bar for what secondhand gaming should cost, you're now contributing to the escalation of secondhand gaming because Noble Knight has to maintain a warehouse and staff, so they need to charge a lot more for their stuff to make that kind of money. And as a result of that, they jack up their prices on stuff unless they have a ton of it, and then they lower it to get it out of the warehouse. But sadly, yeah, Crooks is out of stock. The last time they had it in stock on Noble Knight was this past July. They had it. I think it's on my wish list. Is it on my wish list? Oh, no, it wasn't. Well, now it's added. Maybe next time it comes up, I'll see what the price is. But I remember the last time I saw it, it was really expensive. Okay, so what kind of supplement or books? Yeah, I have the PDFs, dude. I want the hardcover. What kind of book or supplement for a superhero role-playing game do you prefer? Adventures, roster books, gear books, rules expansions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Brian, let's start with you since you're the one who talks the least tonight.
I would say pretty much anything that's going to give me more options. One thing that I like about, so the funny thing is, like with Heroes Unlimited, I really haven't dove into a lot of the more recent books, like the Power books or Gramercy Island or any of those books. But the fact that you can take like Ninjas and Super Spies or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and like cross over all of those to give you more options to play in the same game. That's really what I look for.
Okay. I have a question since you went there. How would a Glitter Boy do against like an average superhero?
Well, I mean,
would it be a good fight or would the Glitter Boy dominate?
I have absolutely no idea.
We got to run that fight.
Well, I mean, don't forget. I mean, your Glitter Boy. Yes, it's powerful. Yes, it's heavily armored, but it's not mobile. You know, it like part of the point is that it's got a hypersonic rail gun, so it literally has to send anchors down. You know, 3 to 6 feet in the ground.
I love that.
So I think that could be a really interesting supers fight. Actually, I'd probably want to get some miniatures out, you know, for that one, just to more accurately represent where everyone is. But yeah, so you can get that again, options, something just I want more options in a game.
For everybody who's telling me about Crooks on eBay, I just went and checked it, and I'm gonna show you.
Jesus Christ!
Is that the link that? Hold on, is that the link that I gave you?
No, you gave me a link when?
Yeah, I put it in the 4-Color Cafe one because it's.
I didn't have my Discover. I just went and Googled Crooks. I went to eBay and just put Crooks Super Unicorn, and that's the only listing that came up.
Oh.
So it could be the one that you sent me is only American. Let me double check. Hang on, I'll check.
Do that search on eBay. Just Crooks Mutants is what I looked for.
Hang on. Yeah, well, very good scares me. What does very good mean, right? Let's see. So that's on eBay.com. let's check some shit. Hang on, I'm going to present it so everybody can see it. Let's go. This is fun. This is doing some eBay shopping while we're here. I think that's the one. Yeah, that's the one you just sent me. So let's go ahead and look at this guy. So $13.25, very good. eBay. Ships international, but I would get it shipped to my friend in the States, depending. But just for shits and giggles, let's go shipping and returns. Canada, get rates. $6 shipping, that's all?
Now, this is first edition. Apparently, there's a second edition out.
No. I want first edition.
Oh, okay.
You guys got 95.8 World of Books USA. I've heard of them. I don't know if I've ever bought anything from them. Okay, let's see.
There's another one.
Let me check eBay Canada. Jeez, guys, I got to go through eBay Canada. Sorry.
Actually, this one. Oh, I'm going to give you another link because this one says $7.50.
One good thing about that book too, though, is it's almost a campaign setting.
It is. It is almost
everything. Absolutely, individual characters thing. I have converted so many characters in that book into other games.
So here's what I went and I did the what Brian said. Well, I put the title of that one. I said Mutants and Masterminds Super Crooks. And this is what I'm seeing, just so we're having some fun as we go around. $18 Canadian plus $8.33 shipping. That's not bad. $10 Canadian plus $67 shipping. What the fuck? You know, $27.75 plus $19, another $20 shipping. No, that $300 idiot. This is a soft cover, isn't it? That's got, look at that. Oh, it says hardcover, but look at that. It's got a bend in it like a motherfucker. Plus, he wants $26 to ship it to Canada. $40 from the United Kingdom. $34, but $8 shipping from the UK. So this is the guy. This is the winner here. Winner, chicken dinner. $18, $8.33 shipping. Now, you guys can't see that because I moved them over. So it's US $13.25. World of Books. It's those guys. That's the one you sent me, Brian. That's the one. That's the winner right there. The one you sent me. So there you go. So maybe I'll buy it from that guy. We'll see how my payday looks next week. I mean, come on. Chris Allman, get it. You gonna pay for it there, buddy? I accept checks, money orders, or PayPal.
Hey, do we all get books?
No.
I got some books on my wish list too.
Okay, so Brian, you like books that provide extra options.
Correct.
Cody, what do you like for superhero games?
Well, I've never been the supplement or adventure guy. I've probably because I was the poor kid, so I could only buy like the core book when I was young, and I still kind of have that weird philosophy in my head, even though I'm an adult now. And it's only been the past few years that I've like been buying more supplements.
Yeah.
So I'd never really had much experience with superhero supplements. Of course, the one I showed off earlier is one I did really love, which was the city campaign set. I used to have the whole box set, and I still do in pieces around here. The box is sadly falling apart. I really love that one, and I used the hell out of that. Anything that would give me more villains, it would be great. Even if I could just use that for like templates for other villains I want to make up. And Powers books. I do have a bunch of Powers books over there for like the hero system and champions and all that stuff, and that's really cool. Just to give you an idea of like if you have an idea, or maybe you don't have an idea for a power or how to make a power. Even other games that would give you an idea how to do it, because it'll be like an encyclopedia of powers, and it might have something in there you didn't even think of, and it might create like a whole new idea for a villain or a hero or whatever.
Yeah. So, okay. Fair. Now, have you ever played Bash?
Never played Bash.
Bash is awesome. Like, I really regret having said not like I said my top 3. Bash would be number 4. And he'd be really tied with number 3. Like, it's really Bash and Supers I've discovered them roughly around the same time and love both of them. He has done, Chris Rakowski with Wilfredo, who's working on Heroic right now with Aid Smith. They did a series of books, which are now an omnibus called Awesome Powers, where they did mind powers, energy powers, travel powers. And they did like entire PDFs just of how to build these powers in Bash and like do different things. And it's really cool. And now it's an omnibus. Yeah. With a POD on Drive-Thru-RPG. I would highly recommend if you are into trying a new superhero game, Bash. If you haven't tried Bash, pick up Bash Ultimate Edition. It'll really sing for you. Okay, Jason, what do you like to have from supplements and resources like that?
When I was younger, I'd buy it all, but what I was always looking for were the roster books, whether it was heroes or villains, because I wanted the artwork to use, to show people.
Yeah.
I loved reading. I loved just sitting down and reading the backgrounds on the characters.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. I 100% agree on that, man.
I've only ever run a one-shot of Heroes Unlimited, but I've converted so many of their villains over to other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I've used the Crooks villains forever and a day.
There was a Marvel campaign I ran in the 90s where I wasn't going to use Marvel or DC characters, so it was all just non-Marvel and DC. Heroes Unlimited, Champions, Villains and Vigilantes, Golden or Squadron UK, Golden Heroes, whichever you want, and anything else I could find, because there was no PDFs in those days, I would cannibalize villains and heroes to populate the world around them, which is what I love. So, spoiler alert, I'm working on Heroic Handbook Volume 1 right now. And what Heroic Handbook is it's the first one is 12. There's going to be 12. There's going to be 12 villains and heroes, 6 villains, 6 heroes in each edition from the Zenith universe. Fully statted up, background, everything, some guides on how to play them. If you've ever picked up my old book, Super Villains, which is still available on my Drive-Thru RPG, that should give you an idea of the autistic level of detail I can get into. I'm going to try and dial it back a little bit because I went a little crazy on that book, but it's there. And it's going to come out for Heroic, obviously, but I'm also going to release it for Savage Worlds, Prowlers and Paragons, Bash, Supers, Icons, and a bunch of other stuff. And I've got people who are really good at converting stats. So I just build them in Marvel and then hand them off, and they convert them into the other systems for me. And it's really kind of cool. So look for that coming in 2024. I've got 3 volumes laid out and planned, and we'll see how they get there. I just got to sit down and write all the fluff.
So, Bear, real quick, you said 6 and 6. Don't you think 12 and 12 would be a little better?
Don't you think sucking a bag of dicks would be a lot better? Motherfuckers. Wow. I just slapped the shit out of you. Now,
so I actually, real quick, on a serious comment this time. I think Cody actually does bring up, or did bring up a really good point where, especially when you consider like costs, things like that. I do think, and actually I think this goes for any game, that the core rulebook needs to be quote unquote enough. Yeah. Having your supplement book for aliens, or your supplement book for psychics, whatever. Those are great. Give me more options. But in like one thing I like, when you announced we were going to do this, I started reading through Heroes Unlimited. Didn't get through as much as I wanted to, but they have it broken down in magic, aliens, robots. And it's just so even if it's not everything, here's a way that you can probably do the hero that you want. Just straight out of the core book. And I think that is really, really important. And I think it's important for whether it's heroes or any other, genre, to be honest.
Yes. So, were you expecting debate on that point? Or
no,
the game should be complete. We agree.
I
would be arsed off if I bought a game that was
but I don't necessarily mean complete. Like there have been, like I'm trying to think of a good example where, like, or actually, okay, here's a good example. Like I also just got Beyond the Supernatural from Palladium. Well, they talk about that you need like magic being a part of the setting. But it's completely not even in the core book. It's actually like in a book that's been announced for like multiple years now and hasn't come out yet. So if you're going to do a Beyond the Supernatural kind of game where you wanted to have like the arcane, run it sort of like Call of Cthulhu, and you've got a magic user, it's not in the book. You have to get a supplement in order to do it. So, there are games that don't do it, and I think that's a problem.
Every superhero game will have the bare minimums for that kind of stuff. But when you get the Magic supplement books, like say the Realms of Magic for the Marvel game, it's expanding it. It's going deeper, right? And that's okay. I don't mind that. I don't need the full, like Heroes Unlimited overdoes it, in my opinion, and makes it a difficult game to learn because it's so much information being thrown at you, right? Because they wanted to make their version of Champions. Well, where Champions does it by letting you build all that stuff, Heroes Unlimited doesn't. So Heroes Unlimited had to present each and every thing. And as a result, it's a little overwhelming.
The strength of that method is that when you build the different heroes, they all feel different.
In what? In Heroes Unlimited or Champions?
They've all got a different vibe to them because the rules are
I agree.
I agree that it can be overly complex if you're trying to run the game and you have to know every type.
Yeah, no, I agree on that for 100%. Okay, let's move back into the discussion of just stuff. And I want to see this. This is going to be really interesting because I know what mine is, and I have two, and then I'm going to come and see what you guys are. But we'll do yours first. Start with Jason because we just finished with Brian. Jason, what is the one or two top non-core books, superhero role-playing books you've picked up over the years that you're like, or you wish you had, that are just, those are the ones that are like,
Instant Superheroes. That made running second edition M&M so easy, and I ran so much of it. And they're pretty easy to convert to third, so it's still usable.
Okay. Is there a second, or is that it?
That was first. What would be the second one? Probably a setting book, but I don't know which one.
San Angeles from Silver Age Sentinels.
That was a good one.
A lot of people love that one. I didn't like it, but a lot of people love that one.
They also did a Champions version of it.
They did. It's true.
That's the one I've got. Century Station from Heroes Unlimited was a really neat setting book.
Okay. All right.
They also did a book on the prison that ties into it. The Something Other Island. Brian mentioned earlier.
Okay. Cody?
I have no answer for this because, again, I've never been a supplement guy. I own a shit ton of superhero games and probably 2 supplements for all those games. So, and I wouldn't say I love them. I mean, I have like a couple Powers books for Champions, and I have the old Marvel Superheroes City set, and that's about it. Like I just don't have a lot of supplements for a lot of games. Never felt the need to with the superhero game. I've always liked just creating my own stuff. Now, I do see the benefit in them, but it's always like, do I want to shell out, $40, $50 for a supplement, or do I want to buy another game? So I usually just buy another game.
Buy another game that I will never run. Yeah. It's the story of my fucking shelf. All right, cool. Brian?
So I'm going to go with, like 99% of anything I say today is going to be related to Heroes Unlimited. Let's just stick with that.
No, brother.
But one of the things that I really liked, Villains Unlimited. I didn't care about it as much for the villains themselves. But one of the things that Palladium did that I think is just a lot of fun is they've done it over multiple books. Like it's in Ninjas and Super Spies, it's in Heroes Unlimited. There's a couple of variants in Rifts, but basically it's a generator for something. In this case, it's an organization. So you want a villain organization? Okay, well, is it just a supervillain living out of his mom's basement? What kind of resources does he have? Is it Hydra? And so you've got, bases and operations and henchmen and all of that stuff. So it's not limited like okay, you have to earn points in order to buy it. Basically you work with your game master and your game master says, okay, this is what you're wanting to do. Okay, well then you're going to get this many points that you can spend on doing stuff. And I really like it because I've actually used it on my own for we'll call it the alternate GI Joe setting that I've kind of been kicking around. I've used it like to help me just flesh out some ideas. So that's my personal favorite just for that portion of the book alone.
Okay. For me, it's a tie for two. One is Aaron Alston's Strike Force, which is, they're both champion supplements that I'm about to mention. Aaron Alston's Strike Force, absolutely love that book. It taught me how to create a campaign universe. It's such a good book. It's an amazing book, and I need to pick up a copy of it because I don't have one anymore. But I love that damn book. And number two, also a champion's book, is the adventure / source book Serve and Protect. It's an amazing little adventure, and I love the hero team in the back that's gone rogue, and you have to take them down as your players and all that stuff. It's really, really good stuff. So those would be the two that I really, really like a lot. I also miss all the Pat Zurcher black and white art from the old champion stuff, as much as I miss the old Bill Willingham black and white art from Villains and Vigilantes back in the day. Those stuffs are really cool. Aaron Alston, man, Strike Force, check it out. Probably going to be a pretty penny on eBay, but it is a fantastic book. Now, this is the $1 million question. Super chats, by the way, guys, don't forget, we're at $9. We get to 100, we give away 2 Drive-Thru RPG $25 gift cards. You can go get yourself Crooks on PDF. So published universe, homebrew, or amalgam? Cody.
Always homebrew for me. And it's usually, so back in the day we had sorry. Coughing, choking
on your own bullshit. I understand.
Yeah, choking on my own bullshit. bullshit. Well, back in the day, like in high school, when we played a lot of superheroes games, we had kind of like you do. We had like a whole like created universe that we created through not just playing. We would sit around and be like, oh, we want to do a comic someday. And like we would just spend hours like talking about this like superhero universe that we'd want to like one day actually like make a comic of. And we used that for our role-playing settings. And over years and years and years of developing that, it became this like fleshed out world. So now, like, fast forward, I haven't ran superhero games in a long time, actually. Actually, just recently, the past like year, it's probably been at least a decade for me since I've ran a superhero game or played a superhero game. So like me coming back into superhero games, I was like, okay, I want to do something fresh. I didn't want to use the old stuff that we did before. So I created a whole new like universe based on the stuff. I kind of cherry picked different elements of all kinds of things that I like from classic superhero comics that I love. Yeah. And I did like mirror a lot of things from comics, comics I like, but I didn't necessarily like whole cloth rip it from that universe or whatnot. Sure. And I also borrowed and stole some stuff from, the heyday of me playing superhero games back in high school and middle school. And so there's some heroes in there and stuff. Like if you watch my game, on my channel, there will be some heroes and stuff in my games that we, were heroes that people played back like in high school and stuff. And now they're like established characters, and I just brought them into my new universe. So basically, long-winded answer. It's always gonna be homebrew for me. Now it is occasionally fun. Like back in the day, we loved playing like the Marvel game. And we loved just like doing like one shots and pick our favorite Marvel characters and do like a one shot or a mini campaign in the Marvel or DC universe or whatever. But mostly it was always homebrew stuff, and I still really love that. I feel like people get way more attached to the homebrew stuff than they do like the licensed stuff.
Okay, Brian.
I would have to say for me, I would rather play in a homebrew or custom. Because you're going to end up with players that, either, insist on playing named character, or, then start arguing about, how is the named character supposed to actually, oh, well, no, he can't do this. Oh, well, in this issue, he never, like he said he wouldn't do. Anyways, going with a custom or a homebrew, you can avoid a lot of that.
Bless you.
But I can still, if players insisted on playing a DC or a Marvel game, I would like, one thing that's always kind of confused me about those is that they always publish, oh, here's all the stats for, Batman or Spider-Man or whoever. And to me, they, like, again, from lack of experience, so if I'm wrong, that's fine. But they seem to emphasize playing as the established characters as opposed to creating your own characters. So I don't mind. I wouldn't mind, like if we wanted to take Heroes Unlimited, say it's Marvel Universe, and just make our own characters, sure, go for it. But I'd rather play a non-existing character.
Okay. And Jason.
With my group, we probably go about 60-40 with homebrew settings, being the 60. When we play Marvel, it's usually in the Marvel setting. Sometimes with original characters, but mostly with the established characters. I've got a couple of players that, at least if we're in an established universe, they want to play the established characters.
Sure.
He wants to play Thor. He wants to play Blue Marvel. He wants to play Black Panther. But most of what I actually run, because I'm not the only one that runs supers in the group, tends to be homebrew. And I'll do an homage or something, but I like having the freedom of doing my own stuff, even if sometimes it's a derivative. Like I've got an Icons game I strain that we've been going 5 years now.
You summoned the Black Panther, by the way. Well done.
Very good. And but every year or two we change character. Every time we do a season, it's a different set of characters in that universe, and we're kind of fleshing it out as we go.
Okay.
And that's been a whole lot of fun. Okay. So I would say I lean more towards homebrew.
So for me, I've done it all. I've done it all. I did an amalgam game back in the day in the 90s that was Marvel mixed with DC, mixed with Image, mixed with Innovation, had Gem and the fucking Holograms in it, and Laura Croft eventually. It's just one. Are you done? Are you done? Indiana Jones, like everybody was in it. It was just the way it was. It was just, and it made sense. It was a great world. You're going down. And I did a timeline for it that actually showed up online somewhere. Someone copied it from a forum I was in and put it up on a webpage. I remember seeing that and going, holy fuck, that's my timeline. Hi, Eva. And then I've done endless. I did a DC Legacy campaign, which was super amazing fun, which is I basically started the DC universe with the characters' first appearance was the date that they first showed up, and then I aged them normally through the timeline. And so there was legacies, because in DC you always do Mantle, right? It's always the Mantle, the Bat, the Superman family. DC is much more picking up the history and carrying it on forward with new people taking up the moniker than Marvel does. So I did that. I've done a Marvel game. I've done a post onslaught game where they were the new Avengers put together and stuff. I've done all of it. Done it all. Done it all. And here's what I've learned. Superman, you do not have to explain Superman to your players. When Kal-El walks into the room and says, gentlemen, I need you to go and do this mission for me because it's of utmost importance to save the world and only you are the heroes that can do it for us. They go, yes, sir, Superman. And they run out the door happily as possible. When you're doing homebrew and you go, Megarian shows up and he's like, hey, guys, I need you to do this stuff. They're like, so fuck, who are you? No, guys, this is Megarian. Everybody loves Megarian, right? Conversely, with villains, I ran a session where they got we were running an Avengers game, and they wound up in Latveria with Dr. Doom, and they shit-talked Doom, and they were snarky to Doom at his table, and when they were leaving in their Avengers Quinjet, one of them turned around the door, and he's like, thank you, Latveria, good night, and all this kind of shit, right? Little did they know that Doom had put nanites in them with the wine they were drinking at dinner, but that's another story completely. But that's what they did. Then when running a homebrew game one time, they fought Baron Dread, who was my knock off the serial numbers at the time Dr. Doom clone, who they had fought many times before. And when they went to storm his secret base and tell him they're going to stop him, he's like, you cannot stop me. I've already put this plan in motion. There's nothing you can do to stop me. And 4 out of the 5 players went, no, shit, we should go. And the other was like, why? Why are we leaving? Baron Dread said we can't defeat him, so we should just go. You know what I mean? So players will have weird reactions to things that they know and things they don't know. And I've noticed when it comes to villains, they love to shit talk brand name villains because it's kind of like their little secret sort of to that. But they absolutely fall in line for Batman or Superman or Captain America or something like that versus homebrew, where they'll be like, so who the fuck are you? You know, and like be like, more aggressive about it. So I can't say which is better. I can't say which I prefer, but I can say I stopped running for the most part brand name stuff. And now I just do homebrew because the Zenith universe is just that damn good. So there's that. Hi, Len.
Hey, baby, how are you?
Aw, sweetie pie. Miss you so much. Hey, you got props sent out to you for Prowlers and Paragons earlier from Cody when we went through the name our top 2 or 3 games. So you're on his top list.
I'll
Nice.
take it. I'll take that. It's high praise. Thank you very much.
So you're jumping in at the right time. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Try not to eat up an hour on your answers, as much as I love you. Favorite 2 superhero non-core book RPG supplements that you've ever had or wanted to have or read in your life? That's the first one. Go.
Give me the second one so I can see which
Second
one. I
one,
can answer more quickly.
homebrew or brand name or amalgamation. Which type of campaign do you prefer running? Ultimately.
I think I prefer homebrew. It's neck and neck, but I think I prefer homebrew just because I think it gives me more freedom as to what can happen. Because when you're playing a licensed property, people may not be comfortable with you messing with their licensed property. Everyone, what's most relevant to you about Marvel might not be what's most relevant to me about Marvel. What you can muck with and what I feel you can muck with might be different. If I accidentally kill Kitty Pryde to motivate an adventure, you may not care. And I might be like, how does he not care about Kitty Pryde? Or whatever the case. So I'm always very cautious about IPs for that reason. Because you don't know what's important to somebody, what makes them want to play in the IP. It's going to be different for every person. And you could step on that. And you will have an impact on the person's interest in the game.
Sure. Okay.
Plus, you don't have to worry about keeping up on canon.
Yeah, there's that.
And then the other question is 2 supplements that I don't own, but just because if I wanted it, I've probably bought it.
No, they can be ones you own. It's just, what are your 2 favorite non-core book superhero supplements?
For the non-core book superhero supplements, I would say, interestingly, one is one I got from you, which is Reed Richards' Guide to Everything from Marvel Saga. And the reason I think so is because for me, as someone who designs games, it's interesting to see what was disregarded at the outset and turned out to be important enough that if you talk to people who play the game now, they will tell you could consider that core material. It's essential, even though it wasn't core material. So it's interesting to see what gets forgotten, but probably shouldn't be. So that could be a little too designery or too meta, but for sure.
No, it's fine.
And then honestly, the second one, I don't have. Well, can it be adventures as well?
Yeah, it's whatever you like.
It can be adventures as well. Then very likely it's going to be Death Duel with the Destroyers because of its inherently iconic nature. I mean, it was incredibly iconic. The artwork did a lot. It was the first, maybe not the first, but it was a very early superhero adventure that gave us an idea about how to do superhero adventures.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's just something so iconic about it. Was an excellent first adventure or early adventure for superhero games, and it could have been terrible, and it wasn't.
Did you ever run the Holy Trinity 3 in a row back-to-back adventures, which are Crisis at Crusader Citadel,
100%,
Duel Against the Destroyers, and
Island of Dr.
the Island of Dr. Apocalypse?
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
you could literally get 6 sessions out of those 3 easily, and like have your campaign established by the time you're done. I've done it many times, but I just rewrite all the characters to my own homebrew ones, and then that way it's not the same. But man, it's a good run.
It was so embedded in my brain that while watching, I don't know if it was Minions or some kids movie that might have been Minions, or it might have been the Impossibles or whatever. One of these kids in Pixar superhero movies. They're on an island with all this island where there's a tram. They're on this 1960s supervillain.
Incredibles.
The Incredibles. They're there, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, we're on the island of Dr. Apocalypse.
Yes, we are. Yes. Now, that said, I also have the Day of Dr. Apocalypse from Champions, which I always thought could be somehow ham-fisted together with the Island of Dr. Apocalypse and just sort of go. Champions, man, third edition Champions had some amazing stuff produced for it. Great source books, great adventures. Villains Vigilantes, same story. Either system not for me, but man, so much good mining material for a campaign, just mine your way away. All right, let's do it. Number 1 favorite all-time villain that you created, and then after we'll come back to number 1 all-time favorite hero that you created, and it could be one you played as opposed to used as an NPC if you're more of a player. So Brian, that look in your face tells me you've never done either of them, so I should just move on to Cody. Is that what you're telling me, sir?
Sounds great.
There we go. Cody?
The villains aren't as memorable to me as all the heroes I created, even if they're NPCs. And my favorite heroes we created this. I can't remember what they're called. We created a team of superheroes that were basically like the Southern version of the Justice League, and we based them off of like Southern states. So we had the Volunteer. He represented Tennessee, and he was basically Captain America. We had the Brown Recluse because he's a spider native to the South. I forget all the other ones, but we had
where did the Brown Recluse represent?
The Spider-Man. He was basically
what state?
Oh, I can't remember what state he represented.
Because if you did the Tick, it would have to be Alabama.
But anyways, I distinctly remember the Brown Recluse and the Volunteer because I created those two. So,
Nice.
But anyways, like those that's very memorable to me. But we had a couple villains that were memorable. And I've used like a couple of them in my games recently, like the Burster, who's just like an insane, like escaped experiment that just explodes. I use like the generic like Nazi, the ex-Nazi like scientist a lot. He's always a favorite just because he's so cheesy, but he always sticks in everybody's minds and just cracks everybody up. And I changed that character around a lot. So those are a couple there. Yeah.
All right, Jason.
I'm gonna have to do 2. My favorite, like, serious villain is one from my Icons campaign called the Reliquary.
Okay.
He's got some magic. Mostly, he gathers magic artifacts. He's got Lu's spear. He's got Thor's belt. He's got Lancelot's armor.
Yeah.
He's from Savannah, Georgia, so I get to thicken my accent. So I enjoy that. And he ties into a hero in the setting, and he's popped up multiple times, and the guys have a reaction to him when he shows up.
Okay.
Now, in my old M&M game, me and a buddy sat down and brainstormed a character called the Longshoreman. Because one of the other players' last name is Longshore, and he comes up with very bad plans that don't work on the occasions that they do. So we took him and what was that guy's name from the Authority? Seth, the $6 billion bastard. And we just gave this guy powers that make no sense. He can swing at you. He doesn't stretch, but he can take a swing at you from across the room and, potentially just punch you from across the room. If he misses, it gets a couple extra checks. If you mentally blast him, it phases you out of reality. If you physically punch him, I think it's a motion control that makes you fall in love with him. Just all these bizarre things. And like the first time they show it, he's always got a trigger that'll shut him down. They just have to figure it out. The first one was a shock collar because we always joke about his wife having a shock collar for him for the player. He has seizures sometimes. That's our explanation for his seizures because we're a caring group.
Okay.
The next time it copied Seth, the Seth character, where you have that phrase that you never hear in real life, which was us telling him, using his wife's name, that, you know, she said you could go out. So it was too off joke character, but anybody in our group that you mentioned to, everybody remembers the Longshoreman.
Fair.
And the artwork was a picture of him making a face as he joke strangled another player at some of the
All right, Len.
I guess I'll have also two. I have a whole bunch. I wrote a villains book for PNP, and in the process of doing that, I had to write the backgrounds, and I also had to give them all quotes. And in our book, we also had a location tied to that villain. So I also had to like think about their life and think about what's a location that's relevant. So for doing all that, I won't lie, I fell in love with a lot of these villains, with a lot of the characters, including some that some of my friends and some other writers kind of got the ball right started, and I just sort of wrapped it up. But so there's two I can think of, both of which are stolen from one source or another. The goofy one is one named Big Bang, and all he wants to do is become social media famous. He's kind of a villain, but he's really more of an idiot, and he's really just sort of committing minor crimes to be popular and famous. And I stole him from one of my friends who was playing a cyberpunk racer character named Big Bang. And at one point, I don't remember what happened, but he just looked at us and he went, "Guys, it's fine. I'm Big Bang." And I'm like, bing. And so he'd be Big Bang, complete idiot, blaster, became a villain. But probably my favorite character, if anyone ever saw the TV show Person of Interest, was inspired by a gang member who at first you think is just an idiot gang member, and it turns out he's actually in charge of the whole gang. And this guy's name is Hannibal, and basically he's just a kid from the bad part of town, but he's brilliant. And I don't mean he's Iron Man brilliant, like building a bunch of stuff, or Reed Richards brilliant. No, he is just strategically brilliant. So he has no powers whatsoever, but he just grew up very, very poor in a very gang-heavy area. He's physically big and strong for like a regular person, but even that, not so much. But he is tactically brilliant. And the idea with him is that the heroes probably rescue him, just think he's a regular person, very, very early on in the adventure. But as the campaign moves forward, literally everything has strings. Like, so even the giant cyber intelligence that's trying to take over the world, Big Bang is, I mean, this guy Hannibal is somehow aware and keyed in, and he has pulled levers and strings and so on. So at the end of the campaign, when everything is sort of done, when the campaign is wrapped, the one thing that doesn't get wrapped is probably that this guy ends up being the spider in whatever is left of the underworld web. And I just liked that idea.
Interesting. A lot of people would expect me to say Lady America. And while I do love her, one of the problems with having Lady America in any campaign is that for some reason the players would never let her get hit. Anytime a villain would like land a blow, they'd be like, "Nope, interrupt, interpose." They'd be like doing anything there. And I'm like, "Guys, she's a badass." And they're like, "Nope." They would never let her get hit. It was really weird. But I would probably say my favorite hero I ever created, it'd be my boy Gyro. He was like the first superhero I ever rolled up back in the days, back in V&V, and he's become a really principal character in the Zenith universe. And I love him because, much like Booster Gold or Blue Beetle even, he's flawed. And it's his flaws that make him. This fact that he wants to be a hero, but he's just so fucking flawed that he screws himself over all the time through his actions and his choices. But for villains, now Chris wrote it wrong. It's not Savage 5, Chris. It's Ravage 5, and it's with a V. You can tell I made them in the 80s. They're fun too, but they're not my favorite villains I ever created. My favorite villain I ever created is this little fucking goofy guy called TikTok. And TikTok is, I would dig up the art, but not right now. He has this cane that has a stopwatch on it. And the stopwatch is something that he got from a dying Time Ranger who he stumbled across. And Time Rangers patrol time to protect time, whatever. It allows him to stop time. And then he can walk around and do shit. You know what I mean? While time is stopped. But he still has to walk around and do shit. So like in game terms, he'd have to make all these endurance checks. And at one point in time, my buddy Robin was looking for a new character to play, and I gave him TikTok. I said, "What about playing TikTok?" Well, read him over. And he looked at me and goes, "I want to play him." And the shit he would come up with, they were in the middle of a fight, and he goes, "Okay, stop time. All right, what are you doing?" I go find a dump truck. I drive the dump truck back at full speed, and at the last second, I start time again, and I hit the guy with the dump truck. It was just like this hilarious shit like that. So from the other people's perspective, he's teleporting all over the place. He's pulling shit out of things. He's like, because he's just getting exhausted doing it all the time. So it's a lot of fun. He's a good character. Okay. If you had to pick one published superhero universe, The Boys, Marvel, DC, The Tick, Mystery Men, I don't care which one, Image, Spawn, whatever you want, to run a campaign in, which one would it be and why? Brian, you don't get to dodge this one.
I would go, if it had to be a published one, I would go with DC, because I just like DC more than Marvel.
You're a good man. You're a good man, sir. You're a good man. I appreciate that.
I don't dislike Marvel. I just think DC always told better stories. Well, at least they did.
If there is room for one you like, come on anytime ever. Don't forget, like, we wrap up in 50 minutes about, so don't wait too long. Keep going, Brian. Sorry.
But it's, I don't know. It's a simple answer. I don't really have anything else.
I'm with you. I love DC. Marvel has better villains ultimately than DC. DC has better masterminds, but Marvel has better villains, like Spider-Man's Goon Squad, the Avengers Goon Squad. Those are always so much more interesting than the DC versions. The DC ones are too goofy because they all come out of the Silver Age and Golden Age, and they just get rehashed. But yeah, DC, 100% DC. With you on that, Cody.
So if I did an established superheroes universe, I would probably do something different just to subvert expectations, because I think it'd be interesting. So one I would probably do is probably like Grant Morrison's era of Doom Patrol
with the transgender street.
Yeah.
How fucking high was Grant when he was writing that one?
No, I think that'd be really cool, just because it's very different than your typical superhero game, and the superheroes are highly flawed, but they're also really powerful. So you create your own heroes, and I throw you in this fucked up acid world of the Doom Patrol. The other one that would be interesting is Thunder Agents.
Ooh.
And those that aren't familiar with Thunder Agents, there's been many different iterations of it.
My God, yeah.
Some good ones and some bad ones.
The DC one was pretty good that they did like 4 issues of and then abandoned. That was pretty good.
Yeah. And but like the basic premise of Thunder Agents is really interesting in that they're superheroes, but they're made into superheroes, and they can do extraordinary things. But when they do that, it has a huge toll.
Oh, spoiler! It's killing them. Their powers are killing them. That's the problem with the Thunder Agents. Yeah.
So that would be a really interesting, kind of established thing to do.
Look at Dale. Dale wants to get in here. He's like, "Fuck Eli, I'm getting in." All right, Jason.
I'm going to say Marvel just because I have run a long campaign in DC using the DC Adventures rules. So I'd say Marvel just to do it with the other one.
Why? Just because?
I love both settings. I don't, there's like you mentioned, the villains in Marvel tend to be a little better. I like the heroes. Well, the heroes are kind of a toss up. DC's got more of an epic scale a lot of times, which I'm in the mood for fairly often. So it really just come down to the last one I ran a campaign in was DC. So if I had to do it again, I'd run one in Marvel.
Fair enough. All right, Len. I saw you go get a book, so we're gonna get a visual aid on this one.
Not for this. The book is for something else. So,
okay.
But in terms of a published setting, I would probably just say Marvel from the 80s to 90s. Or Marvel within the context of there's the Marvel cinematic universe, and so we're playing in the Marvel Lenomatic universe. So don't be mad at me for some stuff being from the 80s and some stuff being from last week. It's whatever pieces of Marvel I like, but probably Marvel. And why? Just because, again, I think we've all mentioned it, and now the villains seem to be a little bit stronger. And I think I would have trouble with DC in terms of their most interesting villains sort of run the spectrum so much that I don't know that I would just be any good at doing them justice. One shot is a
What
different.
the fuck? Sorry, hang on. No, not that. This. Really, bro? Dude. If you're on my Discord, get in touch with me, man. That would be insanely kind of you. Thank you so much, brother. That would be really sweet.
And this
okay.
is why we shop on eBay during the stream.
Okay, so Marvel, but by the way, it's not the Lenomatic universe; it's the Earthlen 1/6.
Earthlen
There you
1/6.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
There you go. All right, Dale, brand name, Clumsy Man. Get to me. Talk to me on Discord for sure. 100% interested. Very interested. Want a GI Joe set?
Well, I would have to.
You look at him. Look at this prick. Published universe, not role playing universe. You son of a bitch.
No, I'm just leaving it here for effect.
I'm just leaving this here for effect. All right,
I would
Texas,
run
what do you got?
DC.
DC?
Well, I would run DC, but most of the guys I know like Marvel, so
Okay,
it would have to. Most of them want Marvel.
fair. That's true. People like you guys. I don't know if you guys know Walt Robiliard or not. Walt, sometimes on the BAM podcast, he and I have written some stuff together. We brought Supers Red to market together. Walt always calls me the DC guy because he's a Marvel guy. He always calls me the DC guy, and I'm like, dude, I'm not the DC guy. I just like DC where you don't. And one of the things that drove me nuts is everyone would say the same thing about the Marvel universe, which is it's the world outside my window. Really? Will you be having some tea later at the Latverian tea room downtown? Are you taking a vacation to Madriapur this year with your friends? Or while you're in Scotland, are you going to visit scenic Muir Island? Like, stop your nonsense, Marvel. You've invented cities too. Like, stop this idea that it's the real world. I always hated that when Marvel pretends like that. But
And let's be honest, real quick, New York is not the real world.
no, and Marvel New York is really not the real world. But if I had to run a published universe right now, I would run my Midwest Avengers campaign, which is the one that I've never gotten to run that I've always wanted to run. The Midwest Avengers would just be so much fun to run as a campaign. What is the Midwest Avengers? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out someday here on a live play. But yeah, that's what I would do for sure. All right. Now, Len, I know has a question he wants to ask, but before we get to that question, Len, with your visual aid, we're going to do the question that was put earlier, not as a super chat. Boy, that would have been a good super chat. Just saying. Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age. Which one do you want to run? Which one do you prefer for superhero games? Not for comics, but for games. And if you need to have the differences explained to you, I will explain them if needed. But most of us should know what the differences are off the top of our head. Brian?
So I'll be honest, I've never heard Bronze Age before. I'm assuming that's like 80s and 90s era.
70s to 85. 85, the Bronze Age ends with Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns, and the Crisis on Infinite Earths is pretty much the death of the Bronze Age.
Got it.
And
Okay. I'd say, because I didn't really start reading until, well after Crisis. So that's what I'm more familiar with. But I think if I were to actually run it, I'd probably want to go like Silver Age, something just a little bit more lighthearted and fun, as opposed to, the post Dark Knight Returns, everything is layered in dirt and horrible.
You're forgetting Justice League International, which is during the Iron Age and is very lighthearted and fun.
That's fair. I'm just saying when I think of
I get you. I get
the comics in general, like the when I
no
was
fucking
reading
Lobo. Totally get you. No
Lobo. Right.
Totally get you. All right, Cody.
Well, as far as like reading comics, the Bronze Age is my jam.
I mean, if you look at my role playing, not reading, I literally said.
But no, I'm just saying, like my preference for reading, and because you've seen like comics I collect, I love the Bronze Age. I love the Silver Age. I love all the ages, but Bronze Age is my jam. That's like what I collected when I was a kid. That's what I was exposed to first. That's what I love. But as far as like running games, I like going, like Brian said, I like a little bit more light-hearted nowadays. And I like that classic, like Silver Age, Guild of Justice, Justice League kind of ham-fisted kind of hero. At the same time, I like injecting a little bit of the Bronze Age philosophy in there, twisting the mythos just a little bit, questioning some of the ethics and the morals and things, and putting the heroes in questionable situations where they have to make decisions that are a little bit beyond.
Darwin Cook.
Yeah, exactly. So I like running Silver Age games, but with a little Bronze Age injected in there.
I can't do Silver Age because the entire idea that Superman could shoot tiny Supermen out of his hands is just too fucking stupid for me. It's just, that kind of shit. I'm just like, no, that's just fucking stupid, but that's okay. Jason,
no, I don't go for like the complete goofiness of the Silver Age, but I like the
wholesome cheesiness a little bit.
Exactly, I like a little bit of that, like that cheesy vibe, but at the same time, I kind of want to turn it on its head just a little bit.
So au gratin. Jason.
So I don't know what they call it now. At the time, some people refer to it as the Neo Silver Age.
Which one?
Which is around the time that when DC was rebooting their Justice Society. You had that really good run of
which time?
I can't remember who was doing it. It's the one that basically New 52 ended. It was like the early 2000s. Just before New 52 in DC, and like up to like Heroes Return to Avengers Disassembled in Marvel.
So that's technically called the Heroic Age by Marvel, calling it the Heroic Age, though DC wasn't part of that. But it is that's the Heroic Age. It's this little micro age that existed. Yeah,
that little time period right there was like my perfect time period. Yeah, outside of that, I like the Bronze Age. I like some of the 90s stuff.
So is that? But what do you want to run, man? That's not the
Neo Silver Age or Heroic Age, as you're calling it. That would be mine.
So if I were to take an example of that, I would say Kurt Busiek, George Perez, Avengers run.
Absolutely.
That period. So you like it? It's almost like a Neo Bronze Age, to be quite honest, because they still do costumes and code names, but they have realistic things happening that they have to deal with, like Ms. Marvel's alcoholism or the Squadron Supreme constantly getting possessed and Hawkeye commenting on it when they show up at Project Peg. So they get, $20 says they got possessed. Could you be more respectful, please? I'm just saying, every time we deal with these assholes, they're possessed. It's like that type.
His best comment was an Avengers JLA crossover, though.
Which one? What did he say?
When they first encountered the Justice League, Hawkeye's like, these guys seem so familiar. Later on, when the entire team's running each other, he sits there and goes, that's what it is. These are a bunch of Squadron Supreme knockoffs. And he tried to boomerang arrow on Flash later, and it always works on the Wizard, but it didn't work on the Flash.
That is outstanding. Awesome. Len, pick your age you would like to run.
I don't know what the answer is, but here's the age that I like to run. When I'm running a Supers game, you're playing the Justice League or Justice League Unlimited cartoon. You're not playing.
Okay, so DCAU.
You're playing the Justice. Yeah, you're playing the cartoon or the Avengers cartoon that came out right before probably
Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Is that
exactly. So in other words, I don't know where that falls exactly, because I think it does what I like to do, which is sort of pick and choose a little bit. It's certainly not as goofy as Silver Age, but you do use code names, and it clings to the super tropes, but it doesn't disregard modernity or a hint of cynicism. But the flip side is you're not mired in Iron Age gore and like depravity either.
Yeah, I think you could almost get away with calling that Heroic Age as a portmanteau, but it does feel like it's Silver Age, Bronze Age, Golden Age, and even some elements of Iron Age, all just sort of
Bruce Tim Age.
That's what I run.
The Tim Age, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I run.
Okay, fair. All right, Dale.
Bronze Age, definitely, with a little bit of Golden Age.
Okay.
I like the two-fisted Golden Age. I like that added to the Bronze Age.
That's fair.
An early Bronze Age.
Okay. Me, I would definitely say my stuff most represented by Bronze Age, with a huge Golden Age influence, but Golden Age from the All-Star Squadron perspective, the Golden Age seen through a Bronze Age lens, and the Silver Age seen through that Bronze Age lens. So Robinson and Darwin Cook would be writing that stuff if it were a way of looking at it. But Kurt Busiek and Jeff Johns would be teaming up to write the actual campaign with, George Perez on arts and, Art Adams on covers, but that's just me. Adam Hughes could sneak in there, I suppose. But yeah, so that's it for me. I like code names and costumes. I like the darker underbelly a little bit. Sorry's poking its head through every now and then. I like the idea that there's shadows that are out there, but mostly it's the heroes trying to be heroes without everybody going, why are you wearing that stupid suit? Like, that's what I hate about the Iron Age, the post-Bronze Age stuff, is all the deconstruction. Garth Ennis's, absolute hatred that he puts on display in the Boys and stuff like that. I'm not a fan of that stuff. I still think one of the truly great mythologies America has given the world is the superhero. And to see them be brought down with feet of clay really, really just arses me off. So yeah,
Deconstruction is like bathos. If you do it right, God bless you.
Yeah.
The ability to do it right is incredibly rare, and it's very easy to fake being intellectual, to try to appear intellectual by doing it badly.
And it's really hard to keep cynicism out of it. That is the biggest problem with deconstruction. Is it's just so fucking cynical, and like, I don't want my heroes to be cynical. I want them to be heroic. I want them to be heroic. That's what it's all about. It's just the name it is. And my villains have to be villainous. And one of the things I couldn't stand about the Spider-Man movies, by the time we got to the third one, it's like, oh look, yet another Spider-Man villain it's not their fault they're a villain. Joker was just a fucking psycho. I gotta give him that. You know what I mean? Like, just the way it is. Professor Zoom, Reverse Flash. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with that guy, but he is like, you go watch Flashpoint or read Flashpoint. It's like, that guy's fucked in the head. That's what makes him interesting as a villain, is you just can't. Or if you ever watch the DC animated movie, The Crisis on whatever it was, where they have James Woods as Owlman. Where they fight, I can't remember what the hell that thing's called. It's something Crisis, and James Woods' Owlman is unbelievably interesting. Because he's a fucking nihilist. Like, he wants to destroy everything. Meanwhile, you've got what's her name, Ashoka, that actress.
Not Tara Strong. No.
The one from live action.
But I know who you mean. Yeah.
Rosario Dawson as Superwoman in that one.
Oh, nice.
And fuck, she does a good job with that. Like, that is probably the Crisis on Two Earths. Thank you, Seafire. Crisis on Two Earths. I would absolutely highly recommend, if you haven't seen Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, watch that movie. It's really well done. Really well done. And it's technically kind of DCAU. Like, it was meant to be a DCAU movie, but they were kind of told don't, but they kind of wrote it like it was anyway, wink, wink. So, it sort of feels like that a little bit. All right, Len, what'd you get the prop for? What'd you want to talk about?
No, that'll be it's not a question or whatever. I just have it here handy in case the opportunity to refer to it comes up. So
I can't read your mind, so refer to it. Just refer to it now.
Well, we're talking about villains. We were talking about villains because you mentioned a villain named Reliquary, and I came up with one I have a villain named Reliquary too, who has some necromantic powers and stuff like that. And while she's not at all, she's a fine villain. She's mid-level, and she's pretty powerful actually. But my favorite thing about her was all my villains have quotes. And I wasn't very happy with the quote I came up with for her. The quote I came up with for her is, "That sound you hear behind you, that's the dead, clawing their way out of their graves to worship at my feet. But please, do go on about how I should change my ways." I like that quote.
That's not bad. You should write comics. You should write comics for Zenith. What? Who said that? What? Oh my God. Jesus. Anyway. So here's the thing. And this is a question I actually do want to ask you guys because I'm curious about this one because I flip-flop on it. Mutants. Let me preamble it. I always felt the X-Men were never supposed to be in the same universe as the Avengers because it didn't make sense that the Avengers are heroes and the X-Men are hated by everyone when there's really not a big difference between the two of them, right? Like ultimately. But Heroes Unlimited has an entire section on mutants. Many role-playing games from the Bronze Age period had mutants in their games. Villains Vigilantes, Champions, Heroes Unlimited, etc., etc., etc. As we move further down the timeline of role-playing games, are mutants really something to have? Because all of those Bronze Age games talked about how mutants are hated and feared by society, right? And that's definitely just everyone going wink and nod to the X-Men and Marvel. As we stand now, would you, in a homebrew universe, have mutants as outcasts or not? And if so or if not, why? Who wants to grab that one first?
Well, I think the whole issue with mutants isn't so much that they have superpowers, it's that they look different. And so it's that other aspect. I think you can still run mutants, you know, in the way that they're traditionally seen, just based on that. Because like if you look at Superman, yes, he can fly, yes, he can shoot lasers out of his eyes, but at the end of the day, he looks like one of us, you know. And most of
Colossus doesn't.
covered
Jean
in
Grey?
metal skill.
Jean Grey doesn't.
You
No,
want me to go get my X-Men swimsuit issues?
Yeah, Rogue
No,
doesn't.
I assure you, Rogue
do.
doesn't look like me, but
Yeah, that's
The
my
thing
point, though, right?
Is cheered as a hero, and people are terrified of Jubilee.
Exactly. See what I'm saying? Like there's a breakdown,
Yeah.
there's a schism there, and it's a weird one because we
Yeah,
accept
the writers
it.
did it on
Oh,
purpose.
hmm?
Racism is not supposed to make sense.
Well, no, but it's not that the writers did it on purpose; it's that it happened, and then they had to make fucking logic out of it, and that
Yeah,
was the
right.
hardest part.
well,
So you
look,
know,
obviously, not that comics have ever been woke, but obviously they were used as a stand-in for some larger real life issues.
yes, agreed.
And there's a bunch of stuff in comics that doesn't make sense.
You think?
And we are all just okay with it because it is just the assumptions that we make when they're playing in this silly world. And I don't mean silly to make fun of it, but
No, but it is
silly
goofy.
world, not just in terms of people can fly, but also in terms of these super scientists and whatever are doing what they're doing instead of being Bill Gates's and Elon Musk's and whatever, and just there's easier ways to control the world than super atomic robo soldiers. So there's lots of silly elements to a superhero game that are just necessary for the inherent structure. If you want to add the mutants being different, notwithstanding the fact that there's zero logic behind people being afraid of Kitty Pryde and not afraid of, I don't know, She-Hulk thing or anyone else. There's zero logic. But there's zero logic in a lot of the elements of it. And if everyone's on board with it, if you understand sort of just what you're doing, I think it's fine either way. I don't find it any more reality breaking than any other element that's inherent. Doesn't mean it has to be there, but I don't think it takes anything away. We just all agree to nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and that's what we play.
So to go back to the question I asked,
Right.
would you or would you not, and why?
Then to wrap up, I would say since I'm playing in Marvel, which I mentioned before, I'd say yes. Because
I said in a homebrew.
I still allow them because Marvel has informed a lot, at least of the people I play with, their sense of what superhero world is about. So
Okay.
See, I would say no. The mutants were created for a reason, and they ran their course. And I think that's if you're talking about inhuman looking superheroes or inhuman looking villains, yeah, I could understand that. That's kind of a flaw that comes with that prejudice. But just the powers at birth or something like that, or they develop when they're a teenager or whatever the powers are, that as long as they're human looking, it doesn't make them any different than Captain America. Or there shouldn't be a prejudice when somebody doesn't know the background of the hero, because they're obviously wearing a costume and nobody knows who they are.
Dazzler dealt with that.
Yeah.
The Dazzler comic dealt with that, right? She was a star and everyone loved her, and then they found out she was a mutant and they all hated her all of a sudden, right?
Yep.
So,
which didn't make sense.
No, it didn't, but that's, mutants in the Marvel Universe. Cody, you haven't answered.
Yeah, well, the X-Men's my favorite comic of all time. I love the mutants. But if I don't really have it come up too often in my games where somebody wants to play a mutant, and I don't usually inject mutants in my settings, but if somebody wanted to go that route, I would probably say I would probably not, like Dale said, if they look human, I don't think anybody would know the difference. But if they look like Nightcrawler, for example, he's obviously a mutant and can't hide that fact. And generally, that's kind of what I would think of when I think of a mutant in my homebrew setting. I would be like, well, you probably have something. Like when you tell me mutant, that's like the first thing that comes to mind. It's not the X-Men mutants. It's more like Gamma World mutants. And I'm thinking you have like a third eye or a tentacle coming out or something. But if you tell me, hey, I want to play like a X-Men mutant, I'm like, oh, okay. So you want to, you just want to be, you got your powers at birth. Okay, well, cool. Well, again, nobody's going to know the difference. So whatever. I think it just depends on the situation, what the players establish to me. Of course, you could set it up in your whole campaign world if you wanted to do like an alternate, just basically do X-Men and with the serial numbers filed off. You could do like a completely alternate thing. And you could do something interesting there. Actually, you could have a whole like world that's divided, right? Like, and people know there's mutants and they know, I mean, the whole thing about the X-Men is it's not that they look different. It's that they're more powerful than human beings. It's the next stage of evolution is the whole deal. And that scares humanity, right? Yeah. They fear what is different. So
but
that's
in a
the
world with Miss Marvel, in a world with
right. What
you know what I mean?
And
like
I agree.
In a world with Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like like in my canon world, in my head, I never pictured the X-Men in the same world as the rest of the Marvel characters. It never made any sense to me. And when they function in their own world, it makes sense. When they do crossovers, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So I agree with you there. But like in the X-Men universe, which is where I like to keep the X-Men in their own little bubble, and that's where I keep them, it makes sense because they have extraordinary abilities and they intimidate mankind in the next stage of humanity. So I could see that makes sense. Now when you throw in all these other characters, no, it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, hopefully I answered some question there in my rambling. I don't know.
Well, here's what I do. I used to have this debate, and it drove me nuts. So when I ran Marvel, it was my own. It was Bear 1/6 universe, right? So I'm going to do my own thing, and I decided all mutants had to have a visible mutation that was noticeable. So Colossus was always steel. Cyclops had one fucking eye. What about Jean Grey? She's inhumanly beautiful. Like she causes a reaction in people. They either immediately love her or they fucking hate her because of this beauty that she exudes. Things like that. So when it came time for the Zenith universe, and specifically in Heroic we have a thing called Origins, which is you pick the origin of your character to determine how they got their powers and why they're there. I have something called Birthright. And Birthright is you were born with your powers. But you have to pick one of the two subcategories for Birthright. One is Legacy. You are the child of superheroes and you emulate your parents and your superhero royalty or whatever the case may be. The other is Mutant. And one of the downsides to that is you must take the negative perk, unusual appearance. So people can look at you and go, mutant. Now that takes us back to the Thing. Why is the Thing loved and Jubilee hated? Well, the Thing wasn't loved for the first 15 years of his life in comics. Right up until the Bronze Age, he was still, wearing a trench coat with a hat when he'd go out into the streets, because on Yancey Street they're gonna fuck with him, that type of thing. So for me, that there's a precedent set there. And then we look at the Beast. Beast is a known mutant, but because of his time with the Avengers, people just accept him as that blue, furry, lovable, goofy guy with the Beast. So I think there's precedent we can use in a homebrew campaign. I think there's stuff you can do. Sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to put you to sleep. And I think ultimately it's going to come down to what you want to do in your homebrew campaign and how you want your homebrew campaign to play out. If you're doing Bronze Age, you definitely want stuff like that there, because that's the stuff that makes the reality of the Silver Age. No one's going to give a fuck. Silver Age, everyone's just going to love the heroes because they're heroes. Yay! But in a Bronze Age, they might make this differentials like that and say, whoa. Yes, Len.
Just one minor correction. You mentioned in describing this that, what about Spider-Man? But obviously Spider-Man wouldn't apply because you were talking about heroes. And as we all know, Spider-Man is a threat and
He's a menace. He's a menace to New York.
And just remind everybody that I will pay for pictures of Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. You know what? As much as I love J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, I'm old enough to remember the 60s Spider-Man cartoon. And so for me, J. Jonah Jameson always talks like this. Parker, Miss Brandt. Like, that's J. Jonah Jameson to me. You know what I mean? Like, it'll always be that way. And I say things like Wallop and Web Snappers because that show was such an influence on me. Now, Len's answer is DCAU. But maybe he'll change his mind. We'll see. But for those of you around the Thing, superhero movie, TV show, or animated series that most influences the style of play or campaigns you like to see run play. I'll start. And you can always maybe throw comics in there as well, I guess. For me, it's always going to be Bronze Age, X-Men, New Mutants, and New Teen Titans. Those three almost define what I love in superheroes. Right. Fuck cat with the claws. Little asshole. He climbs up and he goes like this now. It's his new habit he's picked up, the little shit. Anyway, so yeah. Anyone else?
Comics wise, there's a lot of things. Bronze Age JSA comes to mind.
Oh yes.
That's usually what I model my games after.
You remember All-Star Comics and Adventure Comics?
Absolutely.
That was super cheesy shit, dude.
It was, but
I love those,
it's
but
super fun.
Super cheesy with super feminist Power Girl constantly giving Jay Garrick shit for treating her like a woman. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I love that stuff though. Like in a superhero game, like just going like super ham-fisted and cheesy. But like again, I like that cheesy aspect, but like having interjecting every once in a while, we're beating up the hero and go Guild of Justice, and then all of a sudden they're presented with this really serious dark thing, and it's like, oh shit, wait a minute, this just changed tone really fast. So I like doing that a lot.
That your favorite episode of the JLA cartoon was the Guild of Justice episode?
Actually, it was. and I really love the Justice League cartoon. I think it's really good. I really like that. Actually, that would pretty much sum up how my games are, because it really does do what I'm talking about. It's that kind of ham-fisted go, heroes, but at the same time they're presented with these really serious subjects all the time. At the end of the day, I know you hate Batman, but Batman was my first love of superheroes, and so I really love classic Batman, but I also really love the Batman animated series. So I like taking elements of that every once in a while.
I love the Batman animated series, and I don't hate Batman. I don't hate Batman at all. I just think he's an overwritten Gary Stu sometimes. Some writers don't know how to write Batman without making him infallible.
Well, yeah.
Chris, for putting that in, which I agree, by the way, he did base a little bit on that. I will give you what he said is my favorite line in the first Spider-Man movie, which is, "I'll get you a nice box of Christmas meat." I always heard that in the theater, and I just started laughing. I'm like, what the fuck is a box of Christmas meat? But he said it, so it must be a thing. All right, Brian, Jason, Len, Dale, anybody else?
I would want to run it in Batman Beyond
Ooh,
because
so you
I
like
think
that
they
cyberpunky feel.
I mean, let's be honest. Shadowrun is a frequent answer for me. But I think it.
Boo! No.
I know, but I think the thing I like about Batman Beyond is it took the black trench coat that was Batman the Animated Series and put just a nice pink mohawk spin on it. So it brightened it up a little bit more fun. Gave some twists on classic characters.
Sure.
And I that show was canceled way before its time.
Agreed. And
I agree.
sadly, the best episode of Justice League Unlimited was the episode that wrapped up the Batman Beyond series for us, which was really sad but true. Okay, Jason.
I would have to go with the '90s cartoons, both the DC and the Marvel ones. That's
Ooh.
that's kind of where my games tend to sit. You know, you can have the setting won't be overly dark, but you'll have dark stuff pop up.
Sure.
And
Okay.
of course, they're always team based.
Yeah.
You can argue that even the Batman cartoon was often team based once you got Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl running around.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. Dale.
I'm going to have to say the 60s cartoons where the characters are static and only the arms moved. Yeah, that's where I.
Captain America throws his mighty shield.
Yeah, and they had
To
the
oppose
best
his
song.
shield must yield.
Tony Stark is a real cool guy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But Iron Man with fists ablaze, he fights with repulsor rays. Okay. Dale, answer the question seriously, or I'm going to Texas to sort you out.
You old.
It's got to be the 70s, early 80s Avengers, and the early legacy characters that were coming out of the JSA.
Okay.
I just love the legacy characters out of DC, and I love the buddy aspect, the team aspect out of the Avengers at that time. It seems to me like every comic in the 70s started with Wonder Man and Beast on the town going to do something, and then something happens.
The Wonder Man and Beast on the town episodes issues were the greatest, including with Red Ronin. That was so good. You're right.
I win.
Yeah, you win. I reread all those Avengers comics during the pandemic, and I'm like, yep, best comics ever written.
Oh my
So
gosh,
good.
so
Okay,
good.
Len, do you want to change your story, or are you sticking with DCAU?
No. In terms of playing, by far the DC, and again, and some of the Marvel cartoons. I'd even throw the X-Men cartoon in there from the 90s. But definitely the cartoons, I think, are the most. Now, obviously, there's sprinklings of the 80s and 90s X-Men and Teen Titans, and of course the Justice League. And I do think when you actually hit the table, everybody's table game ends up to some extent or another like the freaking Justice League, or just the goofy one. But that's just the nature of gaming.
Yeah.
It ends up like a mystery gun.
DeMatteis,
absolutely.
Justice League run.
Eventually,
I ran an Avengers game that turned into Avengers International. It was just the way it is.
Eventually, you're going to have, what is it? You're going to have Bob Hope. No, not Bob Hope. You're going to have, who am I thinking of? Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. Or you're going to have Sinatra and Jerry. Eventually, you're going to have that sort of dynamic, no matter what. So
players can't help themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. They're gonna eventually get goofy, and that's okay as long as you remind them every now and then by having a villain show up and really, fuck them over. I was on Ye Old Geeks stream earlier, and we were talking about big bad guys and how you do evil in a campaign and all that. And I told the story, which I will tell here as well, of the most evil thing I ever did to a player. The most evil thing I ever did to a player was this. I was in college, so it's 92. Forgive me. And one of my players, this guy, Chris Giroux, long shot, was playing a ninja. And I can't remember the ninja's name. I think it was TriStar or something like that. He was a white ninja. And he had fallen in love with this NPC named Corona, who was just a Firestar knockoff. And their primary villain was Chimera, who was essentially shapeshifter from the elementals. And at some point, she kidnapped Corona. So they went on this big quest that lasted like 4 or 5 sessions of trying to rescue Corona. And when they got to Corona and they busted her out of the cell, and TriStar goes running up to hug his love of his life, she recoils screaming and shrieking away from him into the corner, and they can't figure out why. And then eventually they figure out why, which was the entire time she was a prisoner, Chimera shapeshifted into him and abused her to the point of doing severe psychological damage. And man, the player was like, what the fuck? Why? He was so bummed out about it. But it was the most evil thing I've ever done on purpose to a player, because it was just like evil. And that's a good question to throw around the table now. What is the most evil thing you've done in a superhero game for the villains? Not you, but like the villains did through your choices, or what makes good evil villainy? The brains.
I mean, I have an answer, but it's not. It's for a superhero game. But I mean, you
It's
could
gotta
probably
be superheroes. This is the topic of superheroes, sir.
Yeah.
Superheroes.
Well, I think one of the things that you can do. Not that I have, because it's me.
Why don't you just play a role playing game then? Gosh, bro.
Not sure how much of that came through, but
Very little.
oh, I said because it's me, and she's like, "Well, then why don't you just play the role playing games?" Gosh.
Oh,
Faced.
Yeah, Gary.
But I
grab
think
some ice and put some calamine lotion on there.
I know.
Seriously, let me punch up a list of Phoenix, Arizona burn centers for you, sir.
Aloe vera.
But I think one of the things that would make an evil character, like it's easy to be like, oh well, they're blowing up the city, or they're stealing all the money. But going back to I want to say it was C.S. Lewis that said it, where basically like the villain that thinks they're doing something good.
That was Christopher Lee. When they asked Christopher Lee, how do you play such good evil characters? He said, I don't think they're evil. They think they're right.
Okay. I hadn't heard that one, but yeah, basically just, trying to make the villain who's trying to do what he thinks is a good thing, even though everyone else is like, no, stop.
So Dr. Doom.
Sure.
Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Megalomaniacal villains.
Lex, I don't know if I would necessarily put him as doing something good.
I'm saving the world from this alien who has come down to us and wants to be a god. Humans should be the gods, not aliens.
That's
Lex
fair.
thinks he's right.
I'm hot.
No, you're talking about Professor X, Brian, says Chris. He's the villain that thinks he's a hero. Okay, that's fair. Cody?
I'd largely agree with Brian. I really liked, of course, one of my 2 favorite villains, and I mean it's everybody's favorite villains. It's nothing new or spectacular. Is Magneto and the Joker, and they're like polar opposites of why they're villains. Magneto does it because of what Brian was talking about. He thinks he's right. He thinks he's has a purpose, and this is the course that needs to be done. He's saving mutant kind and all that. He's a zealot, On the other hand, the Joker is just fucking crazy. That's his motive. He's just batshit insane. He's just, he's not, I don't know if you'd really call him evil. He's just insane. He's just a psychopath. And I like those polar opposites. So, and I like going extremes with villains, just make them an it doesn't necessarily have to be to those alignments. Just make them really extreme to whatever their belief system is, or whatever their objectives are. That's how I like to portray a villain.
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure. Okay. All right. Jason?
All right, what was the question again? I mean, yeah, exactly.
Villainy. How do you portray villainy? What do you think is the best way to portray villainy in the game?
I don't know that there is one way. It's like you need to vary it up. So I'll have my Doctor Doom types or my rich businessmen that won't take over the world because, frankly, I can run it better. My psychos, my religious zealots. I've kind of had it all. And I don't know if I've got a one type that stands out more to me than any of the rest of them.
I have to address this. So O'Neill said Lex was doing business illegally, he's a control freak, and then Brian said, I agree with you, I don't see him as doing right. And yet you would say Magneto thought he was doing right when he was a homicidal maniac who killed people and wanted to destroy all humans on the planet. Dr. Doom has done some of the hideously horrible shit. The point is, they're not good guys, but they don't see themselves as villains. That's the point.
True.
Lex doesn't think he's a bad guy. Lex thinks he's the guy willing to do the things he has to do to save the world. And, of course, he should be in control of it because he's clearly the smartest man on Earth. That's what we're talking about there, right? That's what makes a really good megalomaniacal villain in that sense. They believe they know the one true way to save the world, or they're the best ever. You ever read Emperor Doom? Sorry to cut you off. You guys ever read the book Emperor Doom? It's this fantastic graphic novel where Dr. Doom takes the Purple Man, puts him in a thing, and then creates these little this thing where he can basically project the Purple Man's mind control all over everybody. And he puts a disc on Vision that controls Vision, and he takes over the world, and he becomes Emperor Doom, and he brings in all of these reforms, and he's bored out of his fucking mind. And then Wonder Man, who was taking an ionic bath and was out of it for the whole thing, wakes up to this world where Doom's in charge. He's like, fuck this shit. I got to stop this stuff. And Doom's actually relieved. He's like, oh, thank God. Like someone that's challenging me finally. That's awesome megalomaniacal shit, right? That's what makes it fucking cool and fun. But I digress. Jason, anything else you wanted to say?
No, that's really it. Variety is the spice of life, I guess.
There you go. So you like all types of villainy: the mercenary, the greedy, the psycho, the megalomaniacal, the misguided, the hero gone wrong. You like the whole shebang. All right, fair. Len?
Couple of quick notes. Doom is a better villain in terms of being evil than Magneto, because Magneto would not be bored when his goals were accomplished. But Doom, at the end of the day, may think he's trying to bring peace to the world, but he's not. His recurring theme is being the best, the smartest, etc. And in the absence of a challenge, that story makes sense. The exact story you described probably would not make sense for Magneto, because he does not represent it as that kind of character, but it absolutely makes sense for Doom. Doom thinks he's doing right, but he's not. Whereas Magneto really, really does. I do have a character type that's more interesting than the guy who thinks he's doing right, which is the guy or gal who knows they're doing wrong, who knows they are the bad guy, but who feels that a bad guy is necessary to accomplish a greater good. And they know that once they're done, they're done. The best version of this character I ever found was this crazy killer in the movie Serenity, who's chasing the crew of the Firefly.
The agent.
And the guy at one point or whatever, he may be talking to Mal or somebody, spoilers. He may be talking to Mal or somebody else, but he's talking about like, you were a loose end that it's going to unravel a whole bunch of stuff that we can't have unraveled. We need a better world, not a worse one. And Mal is like, so you're a psycho killer is going to be in this great world? And the guy looks at me and goes, no, I have no place in this. No, I just have to do what needs to be done. But no, this is not for me. I don't get to go there. I'm broken. But that's even more interesting than the person who doesn't realize that they're broken. At least to me, I found that incredibly fascinating.
I'll give you a counter to that. Mr. Glass.
I don't...
Unbreakable.
Yeah, but
Samuel Jackson. Same thing.
Yeah.
He's the villain. He needs to create the hero or his life has no fucking meaning.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. That's an interesting character. But
I agree.
Very quickly, just a third piece, which is in terms of, to create a villain. I don't think it matters what kind of villain is, whether they're crazy or whether they're. If you want to create an impactful villain, very simple. And you touched on it. Find someone that the characters. You can't create an impactful villain in the first game session.
No.
But once you're far along into the game, you know what the characters care about. You know who the characters care about. Yeah. Kill them. Or damage them in a way that you may have killed them. Don't overdo it. Don't whatever. But that's it. You will create. I assure you, you will see whoever's playing the Superman stand-in. You will never be more effective at tempting them to do what heroes shouldn't do when you do that. Forget about the powers and fights or whatever. Look at their contacts. Is one of them a family member? Yeah, threaten them. Maybe you don't have to kill them. Threaten them. But like
you don't have to girlfriend in the fridge them, but you can do some other shit that's way more impactful and can lead to better role playing.
Be careful when doing this, because this is one of those where I'm one who's like, when you're playing with your friends, you always have to talk about X cards and whatever. And okay, so if you're in a game with friends, you do want to be careful. If you're going to play a supervillain who's going to mess with friends and family and so on, this may be one where a conversation about, we don't know what people's lives have, what people have lived in their lives. So just be cautious about that. That's all.
Well, and you don't necessarily have to even.
It's Dale's turn.
Well, I was going to say, you don't necessarily have to even necessarily threaten or harm or kill them. Like, how many times have we watched in a show where, hero comes home, and bad guy is sitting there having tea with his little girl.
Sure.
He hasn't made any threats. He hasn't done anything. He's just there and ramps up that tension.
Yeah.
No, totally. Dale, evil villainy. Thank you, Brian.
Yes. All the above.
All right. Well, there we go. That was easy. Thank you. Thank you so much.
In my games, people do not take the flaw dependence. Take that flaw and it will come into play.
So it's just an entire super team of orphans. Is that it? Antisocial orphans.
Yeah, you got to be careful, because that's exactly what you don't want. You do want people to have to depend. You do want that dynamic in the game.
I get off a couple of times, so they fall into a false sense of security, and then you hit them with it.
Well, I have done the what's in the box. What's in
the box?
Yeah, I have done that. I've done you're accidentally fighting your other instead of the villain.
Ooh, mind controlled?
No, actually, it was Dr. Doom, and the significant other was in robot armor or remote controlled armor.
And that's cold.
Yeah, the armor would not stop fighting because Doom doesn't stop fighting, and man, they were going all out, spending karma, just taking it to town. Well, yeah. Bad stuff.
Well then, so this was fun. This was a lot of fun. For those of you who care, in the new year, when I get the final beta copy playtest from Aid and Wilfredo, I'm going to be doing a live play heroic campaign. So stay tuned for that and see if you like how I do Star Trek, I think you're going to like how I do superheroes. That's for sure. Any final thoughts? Any pimping? Anything we need to do? Anybody? Well, A, subscribe to Everybody's Got a Channel here. B, buy all of Len's product. C, tell Jason and Dale they're pretty. I don't know. But anything we got to pimp. Brian.
Obviously, subscribe to Gaming with ADHD, cover all sorts of tabletop gaming content, whether it's board games, role-playing miniatures, or anything else. Love for you to come along. But also, don't forget, subscribe to that guy right there, Cody.
Here we go.
We need to get him up, and also subscribe to that guy because he hosts this every week, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Cody. Anything you want to pimp?
I'm too tired to pimp.
Pimpin' 80 easy.
Pimpin' ain't easy. The whole train. Guys, subscribe to Cody. Cody deserves to be at 1,000, and it just breaks my heart that he's not. So everybody, if you're watching this video, go to GM Cody on YouTube and please subscribe to him. He deserves it, man. Cody's the one guy we all like. Like, we all get on each other's ass and we all piss each other off and we all grind each other's gears, but we all like Cody. You understand? He's the Matthew Perry of our crowd. He's the Chandler Bing. He's the one.
Don't get in the pool. No,
Don't get in the hot tub.
I was going to say he's our
Hold them all
Frodo.
together.
He's
What's
totally
that?
our Frodo. We have to protect him and keep him safe at all
True, he's our
costs.
Frodo, and Brian is clearly his Sam. And I'm going to send them off to New Zealand at some point just to get a break. Wait, what does that make me? Boromir? Am I going to betray you all? Like, what the fuck? Who am I? Because I know Len thinks he's Aragorn, clearly.
You're Gandalf.
Gandalf.
I'm Gandalf?
Yeah, for sure. You're the wise one. You know all. You're
Oh,
guiding us
fuck.
on the adventure, man.
Fuck. All right, I'll be Gandalf. I'll be Fat Vegas Gandalf.
Fat Vegas Gandalf.
Jason, any closing thoughts?
I've got a channel. Search for the Nerd Eternal. All I do is put a couple of actual plays up, but they're ongoing. So that 5-year Icons game's there, and I've got a Tuesday group. We play a different game every year. And this year it's Vampire. And we haven't voted on next year yet. Last year it was D6 Star Wars.
2 of them said I'm Gimli? What the fuck? As long as I'm Book Gimli or fucking Ralph Bashki Gimli. As long as I don't want to be fucking the Gimli from those Lord of the Rings movies because he was comic relief. Fuck all y'all. All right, so Jason, we'll throw up a link or someone find Jason's channel and throw it up. What's it called? The what?
The Nerd Eternal Network.
Nerd Eternal Network.
Yes.
Okay.
It was supposed to be.
Wait, sorry, no, it was this one. Chris, you can just off is the direction in which I would like you to fuck. Jesus, Pippin. Fool of a took. All right, Len, anything you want to pimp, sir?
2 things. Number 1, Modern Gods. It is a Prowlers and Paragons world. It was originally going to be actually something from the Kickstarter stretch goal that we didn't get, and then life got in the way. I have had no hand in it. This is all written by Sean Patrick Fannin, my co-designer for P&P. It's absolutely excellent. It's a labor of love. He's been working on it forever, and you should check it out. It's a great setting. And let's be perfectly clear that I'm Galadriel.
Really, I hate to break the news to you.
And not the one from Rings of Power.
Yeah, that's really, I hate to break the news to you. You're Elrond. You sit there on your little stone chair over the council and you pontificate and give us the wisdom of the elvish.
Bitch, don't sell past closing. I'm totally good with being Elrond. Yeah.
And by the way, Pedar is singing the song of my people. Lord of the Rings is just dirty elvish propaganda written by lying hobbitses. All right, Dale, anything you want to say as we're wrapping this up?
No, I don't have a channel. Supers rock, like Texas.
Like
I
and
will-
subscribe to Texas.
I will play Prowls and Paragons before the end of the year.
Well, Len is supposed to eventually run a one-off game here on the channel for us. So now that we know Dale's in and I'm in and Cody's in and Brian's in and Jason's in, I'm sure. Hey, Len, let's get it done.
Yeah, sounds good.
Everybody who hung out tonight, thank you so much. We reached $10 towards super chats for the drive-thru RPG giveaway. That'll carry over to the next one. If we reach 100 by the end of the month, we give away 2 $25 gift certificates. It's awesome, good times, fun. Do not join my Patreon. It is paused until the new year while I restructure and figure out if I'm going to actually keep the Patreon around or not, and if I can actually dedicate time to it. Keep an eye out for all the stuff that's coming, but you can go get the Heroic pre-beta playtest right now for Pay What You Want on Drive-Thru RPG. Link in the description below, as well as Final Age Primer and Bastard Sword pre-beta as well. So please, 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 if you want to help out the channel, that's the best way to do it, other than, Ko-fi. My Ko-fi link's down below. Buy me a coffee, as they say. Otherwise, thank you all for hanging out tonight. If you're watching this on the replay, tell us what your favorite answers are to the questions we asked. Villains, heroes, eras, games, you name it. And as always, I don't say peace, love, and geek tonight. Tonight, I always sign off with the one that matters the most, which is be heroic.
Night, everybody.